Hello.
Hello.
How are you all doing?
Great.
Excellent. Well, welcome to this special between Christmas and New Year kind of pre-recorded but just streaming live edition. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas. You're looking forward to a fantastic New Year. Although at the time of recording this, we're not quite sure what the restrictions will be, or whether in fact there'll be any at all. So fingers crossed. Okay, so as ever, I'd like to thank SkyDemon, our sponsors. SkyDemon have been with us sponsoring the live stream for a while now. Thank you very much, SkyDemon. And as a special treat, we've got you a compilation of 3 of their best tips from this year. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Tim from SkyDemon.
Hi, I'm Hannah from SkyDemon.
Hi, I'm Rob from SkyDemon.
Welcome to today's top tip. In flight, if somebody asks where you are in relation to a certain waypoint, just tap on the waypoint to bring up what's here. At the top in the blue bar, you can see that we're exactly 11 miles west of the waypoint. You can also see our exact bearing to and from, and the amount of time it would take if we flew straight there. If you like, you can tap on the blue bar, and this will pin the waypoint to the top of the screen, where you can keep your eye on it to find out exactly where you are as you fly around. When you're finished, just tap it and that will unpin it.
By default, SkyDemon hides airspace higher than 4,000 feet to keep the map uncluttered. If you tend to fly at high levels, you may wish to raise this default level, which you can do in the mapping menu here in the bottom right corner. Go to Automatic Decluttering and raise the level at which airspace is hidden, and you'll see more starts to appear on the map. Or you can raise the level of your route.
As you look through your NOTAM briefing, you may find yourself rereading a NOTAM that you have seen many times before, or encounter an absurd NOTAM which bears no relevance to your flight. Here's one warning us about overflying Belarus. Let's hide it by tapping the X in the top right corner. Here's another one for Ethiopia. Let's hide that too. However, you'll notice that some NOTAMs we consider to be safety critical, and so they are not hideable. Of course, if you're ever concerned that you have hidden a NOTAM accidentally, you can see the list of hidden NOTAMs here. And tap the little back arrows to send them back into your main NOTAM list.
For more information about using SkyDemon, take a look at our user guide, which you can access from our website.
Okay, well, if you didn't know those, there were some great little tips there, and there's a YouTube video out with 10 SkyDemon tips, which I'll link to in the description, and early in 2022, there'll be another video with 10 more SkyDemon tips, so keep a lookout for those. Before we move on to the interviews, let's have a quick chat about our highlights of the year, highlights of 2021. Ed, how about you?
For me, I think it was getting back to some normality with the LAA rally. And of course, we took the Flyer live stream there, and what a fantastic response we had from you all. It was great to meet so many people who'd viewed and watched the channel. So many lovely comments, people saying you helped us through lockdown and all that kind of thing. Someone even saying, I learned to fly against the background of live stream. That was just brilliant for me, and I know it was for the team. And the actual LAA rally itself was just a tremendous return to form. Fantastic to see so many aeroplanes, people, and it was 3 days. I know the weather was a bit iffy on and off, but wasn't it fantastic?
Absolutely, I loved it. It was a great thing. Dave, now clearly the high point for you is your new job, but apart from the new job,
obviously the new job really is the high point of it's almost the high point of my whole life. But I guess the high point for me during the year was actually I went flying and I flew an aeroplane. So I'm on which I haven't flown very much in the last couple of years, so that was a real high point. I actually remembered how to do it, which is even more impressive for me. So yeah, I think flying an aeroplane, the LA rally was a big highlight. It'd be really good to see people, and it did feel like normality. And also Pilot Careers Live, when we did the Pilot Careers show in London. That felt like normality as well, and it was a lot of fun doing the live TV stuff.
There was. I mean, November seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it?
Yes, it's almost like pre-COVID.
yeah, weird, isn't it? I wonder if we're going to start measuring things in pre-COVID, between lockdowns 3, 4, and after 7, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, post-Omicron.
Yeah.
That's it. Pre-Omicron, post-Omicron. Does anyone know what the next one's going to be called? The next variant?
Bill.
I think I should call it mature, so everyone can talk about pre-premature and post-premature. And and Dave, talking of airplanes, I believe, if I'm right, that you're kind of hovering around on the verges of kind of having a little dalliance with the idea of a share in something localish. Is that right?
Yes, I've been looking at a couple of aircraft localish, and so yes, I might well take a share. Of course, I have to. It goes to a vote, at most of these groups. So you have to present yourself to the group, and they have to vote you in or not. And
I thought you were going to say Mrs. Calderwood had a vote on it.
Oh no, we don't go there.
I look forward to receiving the letter asking for character references. How about you, Johnny?
I think 3 things. The Fly Alive week that we did, that was a learning curve for all of us and a good laugh. And after all the hard work putting it together, it was fun to do the Friday evening session where we could just kind of relax a bit. The Fly Club fly-in, despite the fact that only probably half the aircraft could turn up because of the weather being dodgy, but it was good to go somewhere actually and fly somewhere and meet people and chat about airplanes. And then the LAA rally, as Ed said, it was good to see it back after a year of missing it in 2020.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's a whole load of that. The LAA rally was fantastic. Doing the live stream every day from the LAA rally was great, and it kind of just underestimated, as usual, just how much work that whole thing takes all the time. The LAA rally was just a blur, wasn't it? And probably thanks to the live stream and thanks to everyone out there, but you couldn't really stop anywhere before you end up in a different discussion about something. Yeah, it was just so busy. So that was great. PCO TV at Pilot Careers Live up in November was amazing. That was a full-on day that started at about, I don't know what time it started, but it was a long day. And then, of course, as you say, Johnny, Fly Alive, that kind of whole week, that was great as well. And that seems like about 5 years ago now. And overall, I think this Fly Alive stream, this kind of weekly thing that we started. However long ago now, 18, 19, 20 months ago now, in order to just explain the changes we were making, little did we know what we'd kind of kicked off, really. And that's kind of gone from strength to strength. If you look at I think our most popular live stream so far is something like getting on for 20 times as much as our least popular one that would have happened at the very, very beginning when people didn't know much about it. So kind of been looking and seeing that grow has just been amazing.
And of course, we've become a lot more professional at doing it as well.
I don't think that's really been very evident on screen yet, has it?
I think 2022. We'll talk. Let's play an interview, and 2022 we'll talk about in a bit. So there's been a lot of great interviews over the year, and I'd like to thank Johnny for his hard work in digging up a whole load of those. I'm going to ask Dave to introduce the next one because he was kind of responsible for it. Dave, tell us about this.
Okay, so it was my fault. In the magazine, we did a review of some of the popular YouTubers, and one of the ones that I was given to review was a YouTube channel called Just Plain Silly with Brian Turner. And I wrote something fairly dismissive about it. Anyway, Brian got to hear about this. I think one of our viewers told him. And he turned up on a live stream one evening. He seemed like good fun. So we asked him back, not quite knowing how it was going to go. But it turned out he was a jolly good sport.
How's it going, guys?
The man is here, Brian Turner. Welcome to the Flyer live stream.
Nice t-shirt.
Testing out some new apparel.
Is that your merch?
Yeah. After watching that, I gotta say, Dave, I think you're right.
I thought that was great.
Oh,
It's good. It makes me want to buy a Mooney.
It makes me.
Even though I have trouble saying Mooney. And
Everybody got mad at that one. I didn't want to pay for a voiceover guy, so I just got like a guitar amplifier and a microphone, and everyone's like, that voice is terrible. So now I've got to pay a guy every time I want to make a vintage ad.
That's terrible.
Very, very.
Well, we've got great rates. Should you ever need an English accent?
That's it.
I'll take you up on that.
I'll bear that in mind. Yeah. So what we thought we would do is get this quiz going, because obviously, this is a virtual thing, so we can't have a real boxing match, sadly. So we thought we'd do it with a bit of a quiz. Need a little bit of screen configuration here, which might be a bit of a challenge. But before we do that, let's work out. Oh no, sorry. How am I going to do this?
And to think we practiced this as well.
There you go.
There we go.
You got pride of place there.
That's right. We've made you the big cheese.
And for people watching, I have no idea what's about to happen, by the way.
Neither do we. That's okay.
So basically, we've got a quiz. You versus Dave.
I'm so screwed.
And then after that, we're going to have a little chat, which is actually what this layout's about, rather than the quiz. So let's see if we can get the quiz going and without changing.
And I should point out, we decided that the quiz would celebrate the fantastic differences, because obviously America is the best place in the world for GA, though our Department for Transport wants the UK to be the best place for GA. So we're looking for clues. But this quiz is all about celebrating those differences. And it could leave you thinking that if you fly in the US, then maybe you have the better part of the deal.
Are you both ready? In the green corner, in the pink corner.
Excellent.
Let me see if I can get the quiz up and running.
Oh, blimey! And I have to read this, and it's gone small.
Hang on a minute. We can do this. We can do this differently.
There we go.
Perfect. There you go. That's better.
So in the Dave versus Brian quiz, the first question for Dave is, so Dave, when a US controller assigns you a squawk code of 3641, what is the correct readback? Is it A, awesome, 3641 is my favorite? Is it B, 3641 coming at you? Is it C, Wilco, ma'am? Or is it D, squawk 3641? Dave, I need your answer.
I think it's got to be B, really.
B. Okay,
B.
we will note that. Next question, please. Brian, if you call an airport in the UK asking for PPR, and you're probably going, what the hell is PPR? That's prior permission required, only a British thing. What response should you expect? Is it A, we'll expect you at 9 a.m. Please bring a high-vis jacket. B, where are you coming from? When will you arrive? And how many people will be in the aircraft? C, don't forget the airfield closes at 5 p.m., at which point we'll roll up the runway and take it away. Or D, you are number 3 in a queue. Your call is important to us.
This is awesome. I initially was going to go for A because you guys talked about the jacket, but I think I'm going to go with B.
Okay. That answer is noted. We'll move on. Dave, what might you find in an FBO in the USA? Is it A, a courtesy crew car? B, free popcorn? C, free, usually disgusting, coffee? Or D, a crew room with 56-inch TV so you can watch The Simpsons?
Well, in the FBOs I've been into the States, it's all of those things.
All of those things? That's your final answer?
That's my final answer, yep.
Okay, noted. Next question, please, for Brian. Brian, what do you have to do after landing at a UK airport? Is it A, put on your yellow jacket before walking anywhere, and that includes stepping out of the aeroplane or you're dead? B, book in. And you're probably going, what the hell is book in? C, pay any landing, handling, or navigation fee, sometimes a combination of 3. Or D, enjoy a full English breakfast after you've made your own cup of tea or pay for it.
I'm gonna go with A.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice. Next question, please, Ian. Dave, are you allowed to use a tablet to navigate during a check ride in the USA? Answer A. Yes. How else would you do it? B. Yes. Don't ask dumb questions. This is not 1972. C. Yes, but you have to bring your own. Or D. What's a bloody sectional anyway?
So I'm going to go for B, but of course it is north up.
Dangerous. Dangerous. It's a dangerous game you play. Ian, next question, please. Brian, you'd like to fly into Gatwick Airport to drop someone off for an airline flight. How easy will this be to organise? Is it A? Easy, just like flying into Hartsfield Jackson. B? Impossible. This is an airport for big jets. Little airplanes need not apply. C? Hard and expensive. You'll need to phone 50 people and pay a month's salary. Or D? Some obstacles. Organising, handling, and money. Lots of it.
Oh, this one's tough. I'm gonna choose B, but I don't have a good reason why.
Oh, I think it might be the advised choice.
Oh, feeling confident, man.
That's it. Ian, next question, please. Dave, having written about him, which of these facts about Brian is true? A. He is not a flight instructor. B. He is a very funny aviation YouTuber. C. He is a jolly decent chap. Or D. He was initially ignored by AOPA magazine for having an awesome aviation YouTube channel. A massive mistake, we must say, AOPA.
Well, do you know, this is another one of those where it could be all three. But I
all
definitely
three?
know.
When there are 4 answers, do we have to add not being able to count to your list of errors?
I know A is correct.
That's just mean.
but you told everyone he was a flight instructor.
I guess I misread his website.
We have your answer. We'll move on. Brian, which of these facts about Dave is true?
Oh, God.
Is it A? He is totally obsessed by Luscombe's. B. He has offended several different countries, the Ukraine being top of that when he said that the Foxbat was made in Russia. C. He now understands that comedy is or D. He often needs a mid-afternoon nap when he is getting old.
I've been watching enough of you guys' live streams over the last 2 weeks that I know the answer is all 4.
Excellent choice. Well, I can say that you've all got to the end of you both got to the end of the quiz, and at the moment you are level pegging. So we have a tie-break situation. Ian, can I have the tie-break question? Okay, the tie-break question is: what is the FAA identifier for Northwest Regional Airport? Dave, I need your answer first.
37.
So close. 5-2 Foxtrot. I'm just guessing.
Brian, that is correct. Brian, you are the awesome champion of the internet.
Well done and congratulations. Let me remove that.
We have a special sign for Dave. Loser.
That was awesome.
Let's see if I can manage to get this one back. There you go. Okay, so in order to carry on, and before we move on to Fantasy Hangar, we're 41 minutes in. We thought we'd just take this opportunity. Now we've all learned a little bit more about both of you, that rather than a sort of normal one-on-one interview, we thought we'd all ask you a bit of a question. So
Sure.
who wants to go first?
I'll go first, only because I've just read something very troubling in the comments about Brian earlier, and that was that he was planning on selling the Grumman.
Yeah, my family's grown out of it, so.
But that's no excuse. You leave them behind.
Well, those are my choices. So
what's it going to be next? Is it Mooney or Cirrus?
No, I'm looking at Comanches and Debonaires. I need something. The biggest complaint the other people in my house who are not pilots have is lack of room to spread out and carry all their stuff. So I need something that can haul a lot and move a little bit quicker.
But surely you just answer that by saying, your passengers, suck it up.
They control 51% of my finances.
I can see that could be a problem.
Dave, you got any questions?
Well, Brian, first of all, I have to say humour is the hardest thing to do. Everyone has a different sense of humour. So who are your comedy heroes?
Oh, my comedy heroes. I tend to like the older generation of comics. George Carlin's one of my all-time favorite comedians. Just mostly he's funny, but his use of language and pointing out the absurd. I love that stuff. Smart humor, not what I do, but the much smarter humor. I used to like a lot of other comedians that I'm not going to talk about anymore because a lot of stuff went down a few years ago. But Carlin was, when I was a kid, I always listened to comedians when I was a kid, like Howie Mandel, just when you're, 15, 16, that kind of bathroom humor stuff. Just, I love that stuff. Steve Martin. There's some newer guys coming up just because of social media. You kind of can find these people now that used to, they had to go get gigs and all this kind of stuff. But there's this kid, Bo Burnham, who's kind of blowing up right now. I think he's a lot of fun, but it's my YouTube history is more comedy than it is aviation as far as stuff that I watch.
Good answer.
Excellent. And apparently, someone thinks that you're giving the Grumman away. So we endorse the Just Plain Silly free Grumman giveaway.
No.
Or does the finance committee say you definitely have to sell it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The finance committee.
Great. I've got one quick question.
Sure.
How did you find out about the feature in the magazine, and did it have anything to do with someone called Sarah?
It's funny you should ask. And I literally have on my notes, don't forget to mention Sarah. So I get a Facebook message from Sarah Philpott. She lives in Liverpool. And she said, hey, they wrote about, she didn't say anything. Because they wrote about you in this magazine. And I was like, oh, awesome. And so I hadn't even read it before. I'm like, everyone check this out. And then I read it and I was even happier. Because I think, Dave, that's the most accurate description of my channel that I've ever read. No, I was never at any point offended. I laughed. I shared it with my wife. I printed it out. And I was showing it to people. I couldn't quit laughing. I thought that was so funny. So yes, Sarah is the reason I'm here right now. And then one of you guys picked, I think, Plane Lady as a channel, and I know her, and so I sent her, and she was elated. We're ego, anything about us we get real excited about, and so she's like, oh my god, and I was like, me too, but not in a good way. So that was fun.
We did have a bit of a problem with Matt Guthmiller because he contacted us behind the scenes and said he was really upset that he wasn't Dave's least favorite.
Oh,
That didn't really happen. Matt Guthmiller just doesn't talk to us.
I think he did talk to me once, but only when I brushed past him in Oshkosh and nearly knocked him over by mistake.
Okay.
My question is, how much of your life is the Aviation YouTube channel, or do you have like a real life outside of that?
Unfortunately, I have to work. My channel is not in the profitable category. It pays for my flying, but so I'm not. I've got friends who've been doing this for a long time, and this is what they do. So for me, I work a lot, and then I edit video and film. I film when I can. I kind of always have the cameras running just in case I need B-roll or something, and then I'll kind of write a story and use what I can. But most of my editing is done after everyone goes to sleep at night. So it's a hobby. I love doing it, and I love being able to kind of mix jokes that 3/4 of the population laugh at with Aviation, which I really enjoy. So it's a ton of fun. So it's if I ever get tired of it, I don't know what I would go on to next, but I don't sleep a lot. And Mike Patey builds airplanes. I write bathroom humor and put it on the internet.
Is that a best tuck stack you've got on there?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I don't. In your defense, Brian, I don't think Mike Patey could have ever done Siri does aviation quite like you did it.
Why would anyone want to?
I know. Yeah.
Oh, my wife has joined the chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Finance committee does not approve the giveaway.
Very good.
Excellent. Well, I reckon it must be time for Fancy Hangar, unless we've had any really good questions in the comments.
I will give my wife credit. I woke up this morning and she made this shirt for me.
That is very cool.
Going.
And Stuart Brew, one of the UK commenters, says Brian's Etch-a-Sketch glass cockpit video is a work of comedy art. Definitely check it out.
Well, thank you, Stuart.
That's it. Glenn Towler definitely wants you to have a raffle, £5 per ticket. Glenn, we refer you to Mrs. Turner's comments earlier. There's no giving away of the Grumman.
Yeah, I thought Dynon's response to your Etch-a-Sketch thing was also quite funny.
Wasn't that awesome? I love it when a handful of times I've done a video and the company I'm kind of spoofing will chime in. I love that type of stuff. I love companies that have a sense of humor. So that was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did Cirrus ever come back to you after you did the Cirrus walk around video?
No, and I'll tell you what, I heard that they thought it was funny, but at Oshkosh, I didn't. That year, I saw Dale Clapmeyer, the CEO, and I didn't even have I was like, I probably shouldn't walk up to him and say anything. He may hate me, but I heard that they enjoyed it, and they played it at some of their events. So in hindsight, I wish I would have gone up.
Yeah, were you walking around and you could see that Dale was whispering something into his shirt?
Go get him.
Excellent.
Right.
All right.
Excellent. I think it must be time for. Before we go any further, Waukesha Pilot says, "Do they have FISDO in the UK?" What is that? Is that like Pepto-Bismol or
Standards
something?
District Office.
Yeah, that's where people turn me in when they don't like my jokes. I think Dave was probably the last one that sent me there. I made a joke online twice now on Facebook, and someone's taken it a little too seriously and turned me into the FAA. And so the FISDO is the office where you got to go show your logbooks and get your hand slapped. Do you guys have something like that in the UK?
So do they know you're pretending to be a flight instructor after Dave outed you? Okay. So it's funny that you did that, and I know you didn't know. So the very first time I got turned in, someone on Facebook had said, "Hey, I'm looking for a flight instructor," and I posted, "I'll teach you, but I'm not certified, and also you're going to have to pay me cash because I don't want to pay taxes on this." And someone took a screenshot of it and they'd send it to the FAA. So the FAA came down. They said, "Come here, bring all your materials, your logbook, your license," and they said, "We got to make sure we don't see that you've given dual instruction to anybody because you're not a flight instructor." So when you said in your article it's a CFI, I was like, "Oh crap, here we go again." It wasn't just okay to say to the FAA, "It's a YouTube channel. This is comedy."
So that's a good point. And they're cool with me now. He goes, "We get it." He goes, "But if you really were doing this and we had it on our desk and we didn't do something and you got someone killed, now so he said his words to me, "We have to investigate everything that gets turned in, no matter how ridiculous." And now they just call me on the phone and they say, "We get it. Keep at it. Sorry, you have to deal with this." So I was like, "You guys apologizing to me?"
So that was a great interview. Do you remember how that all started off? Brian turning up and going, "I am Dave Calderwood's favorite YouTuber."
It could have gone either way, Ed, but I seem to remember you spotted it straight away and you went, "Hang on a second, we've got YouTube royalty in the audience." Yeah. And I think that probably helped us out quite a lot.
Situation.
Yeah, thank God we didn't go, "Who's this?" and flash up the comment.
Or hit the ban button. It's like, he's just talking nonsense. I think we would have been. He's got quite a few followers. I think we would have been inundated.
So we've had a chat about 2021 and our highlights. Who's got what plan for 2022? Dave, how about you? What's your plan for 2022?
Well, simply do some more flying. That's as limited as that. I haven't done, as I said, I haven't done very much in the last couple of years, so I want to do more. I would like to see Plymouth Airport reopen. That would be my nearest airport, and I'm going to chase that along and agitate a little bit to try and make it happen, or at least find out what's happening. So there are my two flying aviation ambitions for 2022. And of course, I've got a magazine to edit.
Ed?
I think for me, just try and do a bit more flying. I wanted to do a bit more last year. I ticked that up a little tiny bit, but again this year, do a bit more across. I've got a few different aeroplanes I need to fly, and I want to try and do at least 10 hours in each one of them. So,
Cool, Johnny.
Yeah, I think the same as these guys. Try and get more hours in the logbook. We all missed out. Oh, sorry, you all froze then. Was it me?
That was you.
Right, I'll start again.
We'll just keep
start
still,
again.
everybody.
Yeah, the same as Ed and Dave. I'd like to just do some more flying. We all missed out back in January, February, March time. There was some good weather that we were all sat on the ground for, or doing the odd maintenance flight. So I'd like to fly a bit more and also fly further. I'd like to get up to Scotland, maybe down to Land's End, possibly the Scilly Isles if I can get hold of life rafts and life jackets and that kind of thing. So yeah, just travel further and explore a bit more of the country.
I've got a life raft and life jackets you can borrow, Johnny.
Lovely, thank you. Do you want me to review them on the way?
No. Probably not.
You've got a couple of trips planned this year, haven't you, Ian?
I have, yeah. Certainly, I want to get to Scotland. I want to get up to Easter up in Scotland, which I'm really looking forward to. But the other way, heading south, I really want to fly down to Venice this year. I'm going to try and get to Venice in 2022 if I can, which would be fantastic. And the other things I'm really looking forward to, fingers crossed that they actually happen, is Aero Friedrichshafen. I missed that last year, and of course Oshkosh. I really missed basically the Oshkosh family out there. So looking forward to that, and a whole bunch of flying as well. Okay, time for the next interview.
Yeah, so I think we all we either followed her or started seeing a lot of Mandy Hickson on Twitter, posting about her book, and lots of other people posting about her book, saying it was really good. It's called An Officer, Not a Gentleman. And she'd grown up, got into aviation, and ended up becoming, I think it was the second frontline qualified tornado pilot in the Air Force. And she's now left, and she does motivational speaking and all that kind of thing. But I think between as many of whoever saw it on Twitter, myself, Ian, probably Dave, we thought, she could be an interesting guest. And it turned out she was absolutely fantastic, really engaging speaker. We had a really good chat with her. And, she's all about inspiring young people and women to get into aviation. And consequently, she's now a DFT aviation ambassador as well, which we found out about on the live stream a long time before it was officially meant to be announced. So we got
it here
scoop.
first.
Yeah, we got the scoop on that one. So yeah, really good interview. So you can watch it now.
Time to get Mandy on, I think. I haven't forgotten anything. Yes, let's just need to do a little bit of manual tweaking here. So, hello, Mandy.
Hello, guys. Pleasure to see you all.
Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. I have wafted in from Paradise.
There you go.
Yeah, or wafted in from Winchester. Which one you can choose?
Is there a difference?
No, very similar. Very similar.
Cool. Over to you, Johnny.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us, Mandy. Now, Ed's kind of given a really brief intro of who you are. You were the second female to fly the GR4 on the front line. You flew nearly 50-odd missions over Iraq. The first question we tend to ask everyone is, how did you get into this? How did you get into aviation?
A classic way, really, through the Air Cadets. So started off really young. I joined on the first day that the Air Cadets opened its doors to girls, and flew. And then from there, I went off. I got a flying scholarship, went to university, joined the University Air Squadron. So an absolute classic traditional route. And in those days, women weren't allowed to be pilots, and certainly not fast jet pilots on the front line. And then in my second year at uni, they changed the rules, and which was just very fortuitous timing.
Yeah. So what did you originally go to university to? Well, what were you thinking of joining the Air Force to do originally?
Well, basically, when I went to university, I was keeping an open mind. I wanted to be a pilot, but obviously I was sort of waiting to see what would happen. Joined the University Air Squadron, did loads of flying with them. And I was really keen to join the Air Force, but at the same time, it was the University Air Squadron that really changed my mind on that one. It really sort of swung me from, marginally wanting to join to desperately wanting to join. So I was sort of biding my time, really. I did have in my back of my mind, actually, at one point, I did want to become a policewoman. So that was always there as a backup option if the Air Force didn't change their minds and let women get to the front line.
Brilliant. And as you went from Air Cadets to University Air Squadron into the RAF, did you see the number of women gradually decrease the higher and higher you got up?
Oh, enormously. So when I sort of joined on my UAS, there was actually quite a few girls. The girls that then got in were much fewer. But when you actually look through the ranks, we didn't have any female role models particularly that we could aspire to be like, and certainly not who were pilots. There was Jo Salter, who was the very first female fast jet pilot. She was about 3 years before our batch came in. And then as we went through, we were probably one girl on each course. So I was with there was a girl called Mitch Tompkins, who was just in front of me. She was the first Harrier pilot. There was myself that went through. We had Soraya Marshall, who's now stayed in the Air Force. She's the highest ranking female air crew in the Air Force, about to become Air Vice Marshal. And we're all really proud of her. But we were all on officer training together. So we're only really seeing those women really getting to the higher stages of the Air Force now. Certainly in my time, we didn't really have many people that were hitting the higher levels.
Yeah. So going back to the airplanes themselves, what was the first aircraft you flew?
Sorry, say that again, Johnny. I was just having a cough. Sorry.
No worries. What was the first aircraft that you flew?
I started on the Bulldog the very first airplane I ever flew was the PA-28, the Chipmunk initially on the Air Experience flight. Then I flew the PA-28. Yes, that's my first ever day with my PPL, and it's almost like in my hand. And that in the background is my mum and my stepdad, and we took off from Blackpool Airport, and I'd never flown with passengers on board. And let's just say I didn't really backtrack enough. And we got the Storr Warner on takeoff, and we graced the top of Butlins, which is in the overshoot at Blackpool. And my mum was going, "Is that a normal noise?" I was going, "It's fine, it's fine." Oh yes, inexperience. Let's just say I learned from that. So I flew the PA-28, got my PPL on that one, then went off to uni, flew the Bulldog. Got about 160 hours on the Bulldog. I love the Bully. It's a great aircraft, really robust in what it does, which was fantastic. It's always going to have a real fond place in my heart. And then went off to join the Air Force, and I learned on the Firefly once I got in.
Fantastic. And what was the pace of change like from going from Bulldogs, Fireflies, and then was it Jet Provost or?
No, I was
it must have been Hawk. I've probably offended you there.
No, not at all. So I did Tucano in between. I have to say I felt like a really lovely stepping stone. I loved each of the stages actually, because I loved when we went from Firefly to the Tucano, and suddenly you've got things like retractable undercarriage, the smell of avgas, it's a turboprop engine, and it just smelled different. And the whole feeling, I remember turning up and people going, "Oh my God, this is the next stage." And it felt really exciting. You got to sort of go 3 greens, as you take calling your finals because your gear's gone down. That felt so cool. And then the big step was going, I think, from Tucanos to Hawks. And that was the massive step because, suddenly you're in a jet, you're going at double the speed. Oh, yes, there's me. That was on my graduation day, my wings parade. We did a 9-ship past all our parents. And all I've got is this fantastic video of my dad going, "Which one is she? Which one is she? Oh, look, there she is. She's number 2. And Craig, my husband now, who was there watching, was going, "Yeah, she's in really good position. She's in a really good position." It's all on the video. It's great. It's a good job I wasn't out.
So where did you kind of go from there? Did you want to fly the Tornado, or did you have visions of other...
Well, let's be honest. So most people aspire to do single seat. I did want to go single seat. I wasn't good enough. And there were very few Harrier slots for us at the time. The Jag was sort of coming towards its end of its service, although you could still get posted to fly the Jag. I really wanted to do ground attack. So for myself, it was probably going to be realistically the Tornado. And I actually really wanted to be, I'd deployed when I was holding actually out to Operation Deny Fly, which was out with the guys flying the F3s, it was flying over Bosnia. And we were deployed out to southern Italy. And I really liked the whole ambience of that feeling of being in a twin-seat aircraft. I like the crew. I like the banter. I like the fact that you weren't alone in the air, and that if you had to divert, you've got a mate with you. And I just like that whole ethos of it. And so I did really fancy doing that. I mean, obviously, if I was good enough, of course, I would have probably loved to fly Harrier or the Jag. But yeah, so I was sent to fly the Tornado, which was definitely my choice. I was without a doubt more suited to mud moving and that ground attack world rather than air-to-air combat. I know everyone thinks air-to-air combat is fantastic, but for me, it just didn't float my boat.
Yeah. Does the nav ever grade your landings?
If they did, they'll get hit when you're like, no, I'm joking. No, do you know what? I love working with a nav. I generally got on really well with all the navs that I've ever flown with, and I've said these things as well. By the end, the nav was rebranded and renamed as being a Wizzo, a weapon. Oh, there's me with Michel Dupont. I was thrilled to be with Michel. It's a very good-looking French man. Basically, they were obviously renamed as Wizzos, Weapon Systems Operators. And I just feel that was so much more relevant to the role that they were doing, because obviously when we went from GL1 to GL4, all of the nav systems were so much better. We actually had GPS, you've got forward-looking infrared, you've got all of these different systems on board. And so actually, I always say the pilot tends to be the taxi driver to get the backseater to the place where they need to be to do what you've got to do, whether it being dropping weapons or reconnaissance or whatever the role is at the time.
Yeah. In terms of flying skills, was there much going back to your PPL days that translated to flying a Tornado at low level?
Yeah, absolutely, loads. And I think, when you look at all the different programs that there are for flying, multi-engines things, and obviously so much is going into simulator world now, but I don't think you can ever beat those raw skills that you learn, especially when it comes to an emergency of some sort. Sully, when he sort of went back to his gliding days of landing, the aircraft onto the Hudson. Those raw skills that you have then will never, ever be wasted when you get to the front line or when you get to be a commercial pilot or, in fact, doing whatever you're doing, because those stick and rudder skills are the basis of it all, really.
Yeah. And did you continue GA flying whilst you were going through the Air Force?
No, I didn't actually. So I let that slip. I mean, to be honest, you're all consumed with what you're doing in the Air Force. I mean, it was really full on. We were on a lot of detachments. We were overseas quite a lot. We were either doing exercises or overseas training. And so it was a really busy period. You're never just sort of sitting around. So I didn't really have much time on my hands at that stage.
And we've got one picture. Just wouldn't mind if you could explain what's going on here.
Oh, that was when they were really sweet. That was when my children were lovely and they thought I was their world. So that one sitting on my knee is Jamie. He is now 6'5" and would not fit into that aeroplane. He's nearly 17. And Jack, who's on my husband's knee. So this is, I was flying as an air experience pilot on 2 AAF down at Boscombe Down. And they had an open day and we were allowed to go and bring our families in. And so I was like, boys, would you like to be a pilot like mummy? They were like, nah. I was like, you will sit in the airplane. You will be interested. And now they have no interest whatsoever. So I even said to them, I wrote a book and I was like, boys, do you want to read it? They're like, no. Why was it? I said, well, maybe one day.
So have you got back into the AAF thing since leaving the Air Force?
Well, I'd say as soon as I left, so I was flying on the AEF in my latter tour. So my last tour was at Boscombe Down and I picked up flying with Southampton University Air Squadron and 2 AEF. And I loved it. It was really good. And I was doing it really regularly. And then when I left, I did it for 8 years until 2 years ago. And then at Christmas, I do a lot of speaking as my career now. And I was traveling all over the world and I was getting to the weekends. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, I must do my AEF flying. And it got to that point where I was feeling like it was a job to go to work. And I thought that should not be what I'm feeling like. And also, I was so busy because I was away the whole time that I actually thought, I don't want to have an incident. I need to be focused. And one thing I would always say is, it doesn't matter what flying you're doing. you are susceptible to have any incident or accident in whatever job you're doing or whatever aircraft you're flying. You need to take it seriously. And although I was taking it very seriously, of course, you're flying with young cadets and you want to give them the best experience possible. I could feel that my mind wasn't as on the job as I wanted it to be, and I wanted to leave that incident free. And so I finished that 2 years ago, but I did say to the boss, who's a lovely guy, Chris, and I said, Chris, can you leave my picture on the board? Because I don't want young girls turning up and not seeing any women flying as pilots. And he said, absolutely. And I said, and can you leave it open so that literally when I get a bit of breathing space and my kids are a little bit older and I don't need to sort of go to all the Saturday morning football and stuff like that I can come back? And he was like, no, absolutely. So I will definitely go back to it at some point. It was the right time to take a bit of a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, tell us a bit about your book, because it's got a great title.
Yeah, An Officer, Not a Gentleman. Thank you very much. Yeah. So basically, it was a very long project that was ongoing for about 3.5 years. And I worked with a really great friend of mine, Rob, and the two of us wrote it together. Basically, because I do a lot of speaking, a lot of people say to me, have you written a book? And the answer was always no. And then I started going, not yet. And as soon as you say this is the best bit of motivational speaking I'll ever give to anyone, is if you say the words not yet, it starts to open up a world of possibility. You start to think, maybe I will. And as soon as I said that, I thought, right, you've got to get it done. And so it was great going back and visiting all of these times again. And I've always been one of these really sad people that takes loads of photos. And I'd normally be the person that would leave my camera, these are the days of cameras, on the bar, and I'd always get a double set printed for everybody, and there were often a lot of very rude pictures, but I'd often have just a couple of really good ones, but I would have a double set of very rude photos when people had got a bit drunk later on. And so those were not pleasant, but so at least I had all these photos and these annuals and albums which went back all over the years, and I could look in them, and it really gave me all of those memories, in Technicolor. And so actually they triggered everything that had happened, and it was really cathartic getting it down on paper. And I tried to get a publishing deal and didn't manage to get one. And I love a rejection letter I got, Johnny. It said, plain books are for a male readership who have no interest in a woman's story. And I was like, which just infuriated me so much. Thanks, Amanda. Lovely comment there. And that spurred me on, and I thought, right, sod you, quite frankly. I am going to get it out there. And I self-published on Amazon, and I've sold just under 10,000 copies, which has been phenomenal. It's worldwide. Not quite the second book yet, but I don't know if I've got anything interesting to say for a second, but it's not terrible. But it's been really exciting. Honestly, I've loved it. And what I've loved as well is that it's opened up a dialogue with loads of different people. So people like yourselves, but it started to give you, a bit of an insight into different worlds as well, which has been great. And it's been fab in lockdown, like yourselves doing this podcast, getting out there. And it's fun.
Brilliant. Nick Orchard says, which publisher? You don't have to say if you don't want to, but
it's a really big publisher. And I went back to them afterwards. It's I'm not going to say actually, because it might slate me for further use, but I've actually got the email with it in black and white as well, which is even better.
Always
I've got the evidence. Always good. Yeah. And I went back to them and I said, look, I know you rejected me the first time and you wrote that awful email, but I just want to say I'm going to send you a copy of my book and see what you think. So I really wanted to get it out into hard copy, and I've not managed to get a publisher to do a hard copy of it. Because you can't get hardback on Amazon, it has to be just paperback only. And I also wanted to get a publisher to put me worldwide, so get it out into the States and things. And the lady that I spoke to said, oh my gosh, you've done such a brilliant job. Actually, we can't take you on now because you have sold so many, in fact, way more than we would ever probably have sold for you, because you've done such a good job on your own PR. I was like, okay, that's it. Yeah, what can I say?
You must have one of those rude photos that you could have sent them.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Yeah. This is in the post. This is a special one for you.
Here's my message.
Oh my God! I'd been sued. Yeah.
So what's kind of next in your? Have you got flying aspirations for the future?
Yeah, you know what? I do need to think about what I want to do with regards to flying, because I haven't. I've had the opportunity. I'll tell you what's been fantastic actually. So since the book's gone out, loads of people have got in touch with me from loads of different walks of life and said, "Do you want to come flying in a glider? Do you want to come flying in this?" And oh my God, it's been great. I've been up in a husky, a fantastic, beautiful husky, which was fantastic. They even flew over from Gloucester to Popham and picked me up, and we went flying, and we went into a Lyndon. There it is.
I was going to say, was it green one?
You got a shout out. So wonderful trip with a lovely girl, Daisy Bing, who was in the other one. She can have a shout out too. I went gliding with one of last year's ambassadors for aviation, Liz Sparrow, who's head of women's gliding, and she took me up, which was just brilliant. And with a guy called Scrabble, who does another podcast, Flight Path podcast it's called. And basically my husband went up with him because they knew each other from Navy days, and I went up with Liz, and we almost had a competition to see who could stay airborne the longest. I was like determined not to let the guys beat us, but we're going to go up when there's a few more thermals around. So it's been really nice having opportunities to do different things, but I just need to have a think where I want to go actually with my own sort of flying. I'm saying to my husband, actually, it was lovely seeing some of those aircraft. I was like, maybe I could we afford one? Maybe we could put it through the business, you know. We just, you know, keep the business ticking over with aviation.
There's always a way. There's always a
way. Definitely.
Yeah, and embrace the LAA and the permit scheme. It's a lot. Well, it's.
Yeah. You could build one. Are you
Oh
good at DIY?
God. Now, that is not a skill I have, to be honest, Ed. And the thought of my husband, who is not DIY, it's get a man in, or woman in, should I say. But that sounds a bit dodgy when I say that. You know, actually, yeah, our skills in the engineering front are not up there. I would definitely need to seek some help on that one, I think.
Oh, brilliant. So where can people find your book?
It's on Amazon. So yeah, basically you've just Google An Officer Not a Gentleman. But I always say, you know, if people want a signed copy, I'm on lots of different social media platforms. Just get in touch, and I've sent out loads of signed copies as well. It's a much better quality print as well than the Amazon one because it's got colour photos in there. So if people want a dedication or one for a Christmas present or something like that coming up, get in touch with me and I can send one out direct. And I've been doing loads of that actually, and it's been really nice to write real personalised messages to people.
Brilliant.
So yeah, just get in touch on social media.
So just a couple of very quick stories on that you reminded me of when you were talking about when you said to your sons, "Do you want to read the book?" I was and they went, "No." I was at a show in the States once, and everyone was queuing up to get a free book, and I didn't even know who it was at first. So I got in the queue, and it was Eugene Cernan, the last guy to walk on the moon, and he signed a copy of his book and he dedicated it to my daughters. And I got back, and they were sort of young teenagers at the time. So, do you want a book dedicated to you from the last guy to ever walk on the moon? They went, "No, not really."
Don't. Oh, it's so sad actually when your kids do not share your passion. And you know, I've sort of said to mine a few times, you know, is this something, you know, they're sort of, you know, 17, 18, you know, is it something that, you know, you think might be interesting, aviation? They were like, no. What? Why? And I think the problem is that they've so grown up with me going to pick them up in my flying suit. You know, I even landed a helicopter in the playground, which was a deliberate thing. I wasn't lost. I absolutely promise. It was an organised visit and everything. You know, there was a man with a, you know, day glow vest on, and I landed it in this playground. I got all the kids sitting in it and all the rest of it. I got letters from them all going, "Dear Mrs. Hickson, I loved your helicopter landing in our garden," sort of thing. It was fantastic. And I said to my two sons, you know, "Was that cool?" And they went, "No, not really." And I won the coolest mum of the year in the playground. I was like, well happy with that. That's the best award to get.
It's probably saved you a couple of $100 grand though.
Yeah, probably. It's a very good point actually. Yeah. So they can carry on doing what they're doing, Amazon shipping or something like that at the moment. Much more interesting.
Yeah, they can go and work alongside your previous weapon system operators in McDonald's or something.
Oh, I don't think so. Those guys are doing blooming well for themselves.
So I have a quick question for you. It's kind of aviation related, but so obviously most of the people here understand that, you know, the whole flying thing and the joy of flying and stuff like that. But military flying, which from the outside can look really good fun, and you get to fly around low level in noisy, pointy jets and stuff like that. It's great. But there comes a time, if you're flying kind of operational sorties over Iraq or somewhere like that, that must be very different. The thought of flying where people don't want you to be flying and people want to do you harm.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you make that step change between? How does that happen? I guess it's a general thing, or
it is. I think it's a really interesting one, because I think, say when you're flying, you're in the Air Force, you've signed up because you love flying, and then you progress on each course because you love flying and you want to be the best. And each time you want to do the next course, and I wanted to be, I wanted to fly fast jets. And then there's that moment where you go, yeah, I want to fly fast jets, and that will entail going to war. And it's such this sort of like insidious creep that when you actually get to do it, it's going to sound ridiculous. You're not fearful of it. It's almost like, I have been training to play in a football match the whole of my life, and I'm now getting the opportunity to actually be on the Premier League and be on that stage. And you're ready for it by then. I think I wouldn't say quite lucky. The area of conflict that I was in, so I was in Iraq, and we were in a high-level war. And I know this sounds a bit crazy, but the guys that had done, say, Gulf War I and the guys that then served in Afghanistan were involved in low level. And I think when you're in low level and you can see the whites of people's eyes as you're flying over the tops of them, that's a really different one to being up at 20,000 feet, where the threat is all around and you're really aware of it, but you're still in very much your office. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but the office is the same as the office that is there at home. But I'm now in my office and I'm operating, but I'm at height. And there's that feeling of slight invincibility. Well, there was, until someone literally engages with the surface-to-air missile, which didn't feel quite so invincible suddenly. But we managed to evade the missile. But it was a very interesting one. And the very first time we were shot at, it was by AAA, so anti-aircraft artillery. And as we were flying, I suddenly saw these little black clouds appearing all around us. And I was like, gosh, look at these. And the guy went, oh, my God, Mandy, bugger, these are guns. And we were like, oh, my God, it's like, how dare they? We are in a war zone and they are shooting at us. So we were like, oh, God, we obviously got out of there pretty quick. But then what was really sad, actually, and it resonated with me on so many different levels. When we got back, the Americans had Predator, the UAV, airborne on top of us, and they'd been filming the whole thing. And we saw the guy that literally was shooting at us. And he was this young, teenager who basically ran towards this huge gun, an SA-60 or something like that. And he takes fire and he barely takes aim. He literally goes, ramps it up, starts firing at us. And then he is so scared that we're going to retaliate and do what's called, a response option attack on his side. He literally drives it and then leaps out and just runs into the bushes. And I don't know, I just felt this sadness of the futility of conflict at that point. The sadness of, they were being told that we were the ravens of evil, that we're here, to rain destruction upon them. And I don't know, you're obviously going to always do your job. And I'm not saying that, but there was a subtle sadness that was there at that time as well.
Thank you.
And there's a very long answer. I should become a politician.
Great. No, because you actually said something. The skill of a politician is to have it as long but completely meaningless.
Whereas I did actually answer your question.
Yeah. So
bloody well.
Brilliant.
Great.
Well, Mandy, thank you very much for joining us. It's been fantastic talking to you. We've put the link to your Amazon page in the comments so people can click it and go and buy the book. And if you do want a signed copy, then get in touch with Mandy.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
And as you're kind of in this part of the world, because we're kind of like West Country people here.
West Country people. You even said it like that. You went, we're West Country.
I know. Hickson for PM. There you go.
Yes.
Plenty of people who'd vote for you. I think you might have to go into politics at this point.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Let's get a campaign going. Well, with my ambassador for aviation, that is the start of it. Not just will I be eating Ferrero Rochers, but that's it. A political campaign.
So what do you actually have to do for a year to be when you're an ambassador?
I actually have no idea. I can't be a politician now because I've actually just obviously just said the truth. No, I will be. The really nice thing actually is that you get to be a role model. You get to go and speak to lots of people, young people at schools and things like that. You get to go and actually do a lot of the open events. And basically, I think you're there as a subject matter expert. And what I'm really looking forward to is some of the forums. And because, and I'm not saying this, but because of the book, actually, I've managed to have quite a big network now of loads of people linking into me from charities, from Fly to Help to John Egging Trust, all of these different charities, which basically are all, looking at aviation as a way to inspire people. And I think that this could be a fantastic link to really bring together all of those different forums and actually really look at doing something, together in a big scale. So, hopefully I'll be able to use some of my connections. So, guys, if there's anybody out there that has any great ideas of ways that we can inspire people, please get in touch with me on social media, because, as we go into this, I would really like to make a difference in what we're doing.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. A huge number of really positive comments there.
Yeah.
I pay people. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So as we're all in the West Country, maybe we'll meet up at an airfield at some stage when the weather's a bit nicer and warmer, because I know the military people they're all tough and get muddy and stuff like that, but we don't. We're like nice and warm, fair weather for us.
To be honest, I'm liking that nowadays. I like a nice solid runway, that sort of thing. Fantastic.
Well, I live quite near Salisbury Plain, and when the weather's horrible, I think, the amount of people who must be out there in the mud not much fun.
Yeah, I'm not keen on that.
No.
That's why I'm in the Air Force, not the Army.
Yeah.
Great interview. Mandy's got so much energy, hasn't she? Okay, so 2021, we had probably 50, I don't know how many live streams you had if you count all the LAA ones, 50, anyway, more than 50 live streams, and pretty much most of them, if not all of them, had an element of Fantasy Hangar in there. So, people, pick your one favorite airplane from last year's, or this year's still, Fantasy Hangar. Ed, I'm going to put you on the spot first, seeing as you didn't have much success. Nobody ever voted for you, did they, clearly?
No.
So if you had to pick one aeroplane, what would it be?
I quite enjoyed aeroplanes that we would put back into production, and I picked a much lesser known machine, the Ryan SCW. Really beautiful, very Art Deco looking machine, all polished metal, beautiful radial cowl, low wing, 2 seats side by side. That was a magic machine to me. I quite like that. Dave.
I think we can all guess what Dave's going to be, can't we?
Well, you've all got such better memories than me. I can't remember any of them, really. I'm pretty damn certain I picked a Luscombe at some point, so I'll stick with that.
Surprise.
Yeah, I think we'd have all guessed that. Johnny?
Oh, that's a tough one. I can't recall. I have won a few weeks, and I can't recall what aircraft I won with. But I think for me, it was we did one on bush aircraft or utility aircraft, and I picked the Broussard. And I think if I had to pick one that if I could afford to operate it, and I could actually have one, I think I'd pick that.
Ian?
I can't remember. Fantasies are great, but you really want fantasies to come true, don't you? If at all possible. So I think for me, I remember one of the aircraft I picked, and I think it might have been for the kind of backcountry flying, one of the backcountry flyings. That was the Cessna 180, a great all-rounder. So, and I'm lucky enough to be able to fly a Cessna 180. So I might even try and fly it in the next few days with a bit of luck. So I'm going to pick Cessna 180. There you go.
Great choice.
Because you realise that once a fantasy becomes reality, it's no longer a fantasy.
Okay.
But with this, if you're lucky to make that happen, then you're just lucky, aren't you? So sometimes it's the whole meet your heroes, and it's awful when you fly something. It's like, have you ever flown anything that you've always wanted to fly, and you go, "This is rubbish."
Yeah, Piper Cub.
Oh, heresy! Throw him out. So joining us in the middle of her around the world flight was Zara Rutherford. We'd already spoken to her prior to her departure, But we caught up with Zara. Whereabouts was she? Was she in Alaska?
She was.
Yep.
Yeah, she just stopped in Alaska, hadn't she?
Beginning of her Alaskan Odyssey.
Yeah, ahead of many weeks of waiting for the weather there. But just, I think what struck me about Zara is just such a mature head on very, very young shoulders. And there's, tackling that round the world flight in the best of times in the year is challenge enough. But in the with COVID rumbling on, and kind of heading into winter in a microlight, just astonishing stuff. And it's just been amazing to kind of watch progress. So let's see that interview.
Hello, Zara.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Hang on a second. Oh,
There. Oh, so close. There we
there
go.
you go.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi. Hey, Johnny,
Sorry.
over to you.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much for joining us, Zara. Now you're kind of basically halfway around the world from where we are, really.
Yeah.
So just update us on where you are and what the time is.
Yeah, so I'm now in Nome, Alaska. It's almost 11 o'clock here in the morning. And yeah, my dad sent me a message just before I arrived saying there's no place like Nome, right? Like there's no place like home. And
That's
yeah,
a real,
that's very
that's a real
true.
dad joke,
That's
isn't
a
it?
dad joke.
Yeah.
Hide your head in shame for that joke.
But yeah, it's been great. It's kind of cold. It's also weird knowing that I'm on the opposite side of the planet from like my parents and home. But it's beautiful. The one thing that's a bit frustrating is that the sun, like it comes up relatively late, but then also the sunset is quite late, but it's always quite low. So it's always in your eyes. So I was trying to go on a walk and I just had the sun like constantly just in my face. But it's fascinating. Yeah, it's been really cool.
Real. Now, thinking back nearly probably 2 months now, how was that first Atlantic crossing for you?
It was tough. Yeah, it was actually it was a lot harder than I thought it'd be, just because I'd like to say I was relatively unlucky, but it was okay. But the cloud base was just quite low, and so I'm not allowed to fly into cloud. And so I was just kind of stuck beneath this overcast. And it was annoying because I'd met a couple pilots in a week that were also flying to Iceland at the time. And like on the radio as we were going, they were like, like just come up, like it's clear, like blue skies at 5,000 feet. And like I just have this wall above me. And I'm like, I know, I can't do anything about it. But yeah, it was good. Iceland was like a 5-hour flight. That was, I think, my first long solo over water one. I think my lowest point was 1,500 feet to just stay below the cloud at that point. Lost radio contact almost straight away. But I mean, it was nice. I had music and podcasts to keep me going. My most challenging flight was definitely Iceland to Greenland. The cloud got really low. So at one point I was at 600 feet above the North Atlantic, which isn't the fun, like it's not the most comfortable thing. I was kind of considering dipping my toes in at that point. But yeah, it was fun. And then seeing Greenland is like the most rewarding thing. It was amazing, especially like the icebergs and things like that. It's just like it takes your breath away.
And are you kind of less apprehensive about water crossings now because of
Oh.
having nailed that first one?
Yeah, so then I also had a 6-hour flight over water from the Caribbean islands to Colombia. And so now, especially coming to Nome, usually most people go along the coast, and I was like, no, I'm just going direct. Like there's like kind of this weird U, and going along. So Nome is up here, and then I was down here, and most people go along the coast, and then I just went, no, I just don't want to. So yeah, water isn't as scary anymore, but I think the Bering Strait is going to be a challenge.
And the airplane itself, the Shark, is it performing as you'd hoped it would?
Yes, it's been really good. The temperature, because it's quite a small cowling, the temperature regulation can be challenging at times. So especially in places like Colombia and New Mexico, I had to taxi relatively quickly to try and cool the plane down before taking off. But yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I'm halfway around the world. I've had a couple like maintenance stops, but nothing major. So I'm really happy, and yeah, I love it.
And just going back to the water crossings, what kind of podcasts were you listening to?
So I was just listening to the most random things. It got to a point, especially with my music, where it was like anything. I will listen to anything here. I don't care, just anything. And then for podcast, there was this one podcast about interviews with celebrities that was WTF with Mark Maron, I think. And so it was like Matt Damon, I think a couple presidents from the US and stuff like that. It was like an amusing podcast, but otherwise, yeah, I'm not too fussed really.
Real. And of the countries that you've visited so far, has there been one that's been kind of the most difficult in terms of like admin and permissions?
Actually, in that sense, people have been really helpful. So it's quite lucky that I've got some of press behind me in that sense, is that people are really keen to help and make sure that everything goes smoothly. So that's really good. For the flying wise, it's kind of a joke, but it's not really a joke that every flight has had some sort of challenge. I've had maybe 35 flights now, maybe a bit more. And I think, 5 or 6 of those have gone as I planned them with no challenges whatsoever. Every time on the other flights, something goes wrong. And for example, the weather, thunderstorms, low clouds, wildfires in California, which I wasn't expecting, just a whole range of different stuff that comes up. And so it's been challenging, definitely.
Yeah. And you've spent a lot of time in the USA. So how's that compared from a flying point of view to Europe?
I really like it. So there's no airspace, or basically no airspace. So I can just kind of go direct, which is pretty fun. And also radio, like I'm almost always in range, which is, it's nice having that in the back of your mind, I guess. So I've really enjoyed it. It's been like terrain-wise and climate-wise, it's been a bit more challenging. I got into some relatively heavy turbulence in Seattle, going up to Alaska, and then in Alaska I had to divert because I was flying through valleys, and then at one point there were a couple of valleys I could go through to get to Juneau, which is up north, and they were all blocked by rain showers, and so I just couldn't get through them and had to land in Ketchikan. Spent a couple of days there, had some local salmon, so I was really happy. And then headed off to Juneau, was stuck there again for 4 days. Then headed up to Anchorage, really bad turbulence again, trying to get there. I was really close turning around, actually. And then Anchorage, spent a day there, and then got to Nome. And then Nome again, really heavy turbulence. So it was just a few days of like, oof, like the last couple of flights have been more challenging than I would have liked it to be.
And one question from a viewer, Freddie. Where has been your favorite place that you've visited?
I really liked Greenland. I loved it. I think partly because I was so kind of proud of myself for reaching Greenland. I think that was one of something that I always sort of look at. Wow, like flying yourself to Greenland is pretty cool. So already arriving there, I was super happy. But then also I met some really cool people. So I was in Kulusuk for a couple of days. So that's on the east coast of Greenland. And I was in this little hotel, and I met some NASA scientists over there, and they were doing climate change measurements. And so they would go out with a couple pilots in the DC-3 and drop probes, like aim and kind of like drop, probes into the ocean, and to measure, I think it was temperature and the salinity of the water and things like that. And they were super interesting people, and I kind of spent like 3 days with them, sort of tagging along. Sadly, I asked them if I could join them. Sadly, paperwork was an issue there, but yeah, it was super cool.
And another quick one from a viewer, Cloudhopper. Are you going to write a book?
I think I'd like to, but I don't know. My English literature was never my strong suit, but I'd love to.
And then one question which I think has popped up, and somewhere I've got a picture of it, is this.
Yeah.
How did this come about, and how was it?
So I got an email, I think, from someone kind of who's been helping me out saying, Holly Branson wants to talk to you. And I was like, I'm sorry, say that again. Like, who? Like, why? How did this come about? Having Holly Branson knowing about me and my trip was pretty crazy. And then, sure enough, I got a phone call one morning from Holly Branson saying, "Look, I think what you're doing is really cool, and Virgin, and on behalf of Virgin, I'd like to sponsor you and help you out." And I thought, this is the craziest thing. And then it kind of grew from there. So I was headed down to the Caribbean islands anyway. And it was like, well, if you land at the British Virgin Islands, it was a big maybe, you might be able to have lunch with Richard Branson. And so I just did a double take, like, I'm sorry, excuse me, say that again. And it was crazy. So I landed again, really big maybe. I was already late because I had to land in Turks and Caicos the night before because of really bad visibility. So I woke up that morning, left the moment the sun had risen. I was off. It was about a 3-hour flight to the British Virgin Islands, and then landed. And it was a little big maybe. And then suddenly someone who kind of helps him out and works for him was like, "Yeah, we're going to his island now. Like, grab your bags." And so I went in my flight suit and everything. I left my bags behind, and straight from the airport to Richard Branson's house, and I was able to meet him. Yeah, it was really cool. Really nice. Had loads of questions, and it was amazing.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I think I was joking about this earlier. But if anyone would have told me 2 months ago that I would be paddleboarding with Richard Branson in the Caribbean islands, I would have laughed. It would have been ridiculous.
Brilliant. And did you visit SpaceX as well?
I did. So this was in Hawthorne in LA. Right. I was able to see the factory and kind of see what they were up to, and that was really cool. That they were really nice, touring me around. I wasn't allowed, so it was the same with Virgin Galactic. As an international, as a foreigner, you're not allowed to see everything really. But it was amazing. So I got to, with Virgin Galactic, I actually got to fly their simulation. So they've got a whole simulation going. And so you kind of know what it's like to spend a couple minutes up there. And that was really cool.
Brilliant. And you dropped into North Carolina, I think, and
I did.
Lilac's asking what was it like flying into the birthplace of aviation?
That was weird. Yeah, that was, weird in an amazing kind of way. So I landed there. I couldn't see the runway for a really long time because it was there were trees all around, so it took me forever. So it was a pretty rough landing. But yeah, I got to kind of see exactly where the first flights took place. And it kind of makes you realize how quickly aviation has evolved. That was only 120 years ago, kind of. So seeing it, kind of, I can't describe it, right? It's one of those feelings where you feel it's very philosophical and where you're just thinking deeply about about everything. But it was really cool.
Brilliant. And now going on to your route, where is next? We've had a few questions about Russia. One from this chap. When do you anticipate departing Nome?
So I got my Miffy, so that's my mascot, my co-pilot. I'm actually not solo, I've got a couple of co-pilots with me. But she came back with my passport and my visa yesterday. So I got everything I needed yesterday. And then I was hoping to get out today, but the weather up in Russia is not looking ideal. So Sunday is looking good. So the airfield closes over the weekend in Russia, but Sunday is looking good. So I'm really excited for that. And I've never been to Russia, so that'll be good.
Good, that sounds exciting. Now, Andrea says, which flying skill do you feel has improved most so far?
I think sort of coping with things you weren't expecting in that sense, sort of keeping your cool and saying, actually, no, let's do this, let's do that, like not rushing into decisions as well. And just thinking, okay, I'm going to take a minute to kind of relax. Like this just happened, or I just saw that, or like a bird like just narrowly missed me. You get kind of used to that. But and take a couple of minutes, just kind of regroup and see what is the best decision. I've had to divert quite a few times on this trip. So it's just, okay, so I'd like to divert now, but which airport should I land at? You know, are there ones that are better than others? And actually coming down from Northern Colombia to Southern Colombia, it was like supposed to be a 4-hour flight, I think, and kind of 2 hours into my trip, I was above the cloud at this point because the cloud bases were way too low, and so I was at 9,500 feet, I think, and every 10 minutes or so I just had to go up another 1,000, and I just thought, so at this point I think I was at 10,500, and I'd already sort of said, I'll try one more time, right? Like just 10 more minutes, see how it goes. And it was worsening, it wasn't getting better. So I just landed at the nearest airfield. I just thought, well, there's one right here. I guess I'll just land there and wait the weather out a little bit. And so that's what I did. I just, by coincidence, like it happened to be Quibdó. So I land there, and then like an hour later, someone comes up to me and says, you know, you just landed at the rainiest city on Earth. And I was like, sorry, excuse me. And sure enough, I Google it, and Quibdó, Colombia is the rainiest city on Earth. And by complete coincidence, I happened to land there. So sure enough, I was stuck there for 2 days because it is pretty rainy. But it was amusing.
Brilliant. And how was like the likes of JFK?
So I think coming in was a lot scarier than like sort of landing and taxiing, because you're flying, I mean, just above New York City, which I wasn't really used to. So I'm used to kind of, you know, in England and stuff, there's a lot of green fields and, you know, all the pretty, in Belgium as well. Like there's always some place to land in case everything were to go wrong. But at that point, it's just like, yeah, buildings. And it was really cool, slightly scary, obviously. I wanted to be really like professional and everything, and came into land. I had a follow me car straight away because it's obviously such a big airfield that you just get lost. And then actually on the way out was a lot more interesting, because then I was in this queue. There's a pretty long queue to take off at JFK, and it was like Boeing, Airbus, Boeing, me, Boeing, Airbus, Boeing. And I've got a video where I'm just filming and you see this huge plane, and then I go back and like maybe 6 or 7 other huge aircraft behind me. And so I line up, and this the JFK ATC clears me for takeoff, and then he had done that just after another huge aircraft had taken off. So I kind of awkwardly go, can I just wait 1 minute, please? As there's a huge amount of planes waiting for me. So that was a bit, but I mean, it was fine. It was really fun. And then I just got out and flew straight over Central Park. And yeah, that was amazing.
Brilliant. Now the rest of your journey, you're going Russia, and then it's Japan after that, isn't it?
Yeah, so actually I'm going to South Korea now. So China was tough because of COVID restrictions, and Japan is hard because of the sharks. The shark is a microlite, and they're a bit stricter with microlites over there. So then I'm going to South Korea instead.
Yeah, and then where's your second antipodal point? Was that somewhere in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so normally it was going to be to Mako in Colombia and then Jambi in Indonesia. But because I had to land in Quibdó and then start heading back north to kind of avoid wasting time, I'm going to Jakarta, Indonesia. So I think normally that should be about 2 or 3 weeks away if I keep going. If it keeps going well. But yeah, I'm excited, so we'll see. I've never been anywhere near there, so.
Brilliant. And another viewer question: the shark, does it have enough space for all your luggage for the entire world trip?
Yeah, that's the one thing. The shark is amazing, but there isn't a huge amount of space. So I've got my fuel tank in the second seat in the back, and on top of that, I also put my another bag. But yeah, it's been good. I have about 2 jumpers for. I wasn't expecting to spend so much time in Alaska, so I've been a bit cold. But yeah, it's been good.
Brilliant. Now, Ed, Ian, Dave, any questions?
Which is the bit you're looking forward to the most? I see you're drinking water or moonshine there.
Yeah, yeah, keeps me going. I am looking forward to South Korea. I think hopefully the flying should be quite good. I'm obviously looking forward to more flying near being near the equator, but the flying does tend to be trickier. I mean, there's thunderstorms kind of everywhere. I was flying through Mexico, and then I've got Iridium communications, so I'm able to kind of text people on the ground. At this point, I've got a few people like there to flight follow, just to make sure that if I need something, I can quickly text them and they'll be there, like kind of on standby. At this point, it was my dad, and so I'm kind of like, yeah, being efficient, if you will, because I'm trying to beat the sunset, and I can see like some activity so it's all blue skies kind of, but I can see like some stuff in the distance, like on my heading. So I messaged him and I'm like, there seems to be like some activity ahead. Like, could you check the satellite and make sure that there's no like thunderstorm or something? And he says, no, it's fine. Just go direct. Like completely fine. There's nothing there. Blue skies all the way. Like, okay. And then like a minute later, I'm like, no, like I feel like there's a thunderstorm there. Could you just double check and see how big it is and how far around it I should go? And again, he's like, no, honestly, like completely fine. I checked it, like just go straight, like no issues whatsoever. And then I say, no, you don't understand. I can see the lightning strikes. Please, can you tell me what the best way what to do? And he was like, yeah, just go around it. I was like, okay, cool. Yes, it's not too big, but yeah, it was funny.
Brilliant. I've just noticed one really important question, which is, what's your favourite in-flight snack?
So every stop, people have been giving me like the local delicacies, I guess you could say. But yeah, I'm just kind of anything that people give me, I'll eat. But it's been good.
So isn't that when you leave Alaska, don't they isn't the speciality a kind of little putrid bit of rotten whale or blubber or something?
I had those beef sticks? I had a moose stick. So that was cool. Yeah. So they're a bit different, but
which has been your favorite?
Similar.
Which has been your favorite airfield so far, apart from Popham?
Popham, I love Popham. Yeah. Greenland was really cool. It is stunning. And then JFK was pretty. Yeah. I mean, how to compare. I mean, every airfield has been relatively similar. They've been quite big, asphalt. But yeah, I think Greenland was amazing. JFK was really cool. Those would probably be my top two.
Just for fun, Whiskey Alpha says, you've got Zara calling ahead to get weather advice from her dad, when most people her age are going, Dad, I need a taxi.
Yeah, I've been that taxi a few times.
I needed I had to divert for the sunset in a place called Washington Warren in North Carolina. And by the time I landed, the airfield was completely empty. There was nothing there. It was pretty big actually, but absolutely no one there. It was like dark at this point as well. So I've landed and I get to sort of the parking lot and I'm trying to contact these taxi companies, but with my accent, I'm trying to tell them I'm at Washington Warren Airport. And they just respond like, madam, like Washington DC is very far away from here. And so I have to say, no, Washington Warren in North Carolina. And nobody really knew what Washington Warren Airfield was. So I had to try and convince this taxi to please come and pick me up because I really need a place to stay overnight. And he was half an hour away. So he said, yeah, I mean, I could come, but it's going to cost you quite a bit. So, and then at that exact point, a car drives in. And people said, this is an empty parking lot and it's pitch black outside. And so one car comes in and I'm like, this is a bit weird. But I told the taxi guy, I'm like, well, someone just drove in. Just like, let me call you back in 5 minutes. I'll try and catch a ride. And so he stops. And then sure enough, I go to this guy I never asked him why he was there, but I just figured, this is my best shot. So I asked him, like, sir, I'm really sorry about this, but there's a hotel about 10 minutes away from here. Would it be okay if you could kind of just drop me off? He was like, yeah, no problem. And so that was how that was a bit of an adventure. And when I tell my dad, he laughed. When I told my mum, I think she had a look of horror on her face. So, yeah.
So are you handling all your own logistics, kind of place to place?
No. So that's where I'm lucky that I've got some people helping me out. Usually I'm staying with hosts, but when I divert somewhere, then I'll sort of sort out like a hotel or something. Like it's not too tricky. Yeah.
Nice one. I have to say, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with the. I don't mean this to sound patronising, but with the maturity of your decision making along the way in your diversions and stuff like that. That's kind of the really impressive part for me.
Thank you. Anyway. Quite learned to kind of not that I would obviously ever divert on purpose before, but sometimes it's quite nice diverting because it doesn't make it like really adventurous, right? You land somewhere that you weren't planning on landing at, and so suddenly you're stuck in this town that you don't know. In Quibdo, they gave me a police escort back to my hotel, and they told me, you are not allowed to leave the hotel without like this guy. Like they gave me a list of people, like this person, this person, this person, and if someone new comes up, you call us straight away and ask us if it's okay. So you get this whole new sense of adventure, I guess, which is pretty cool.
Amazing.
Did you tell your mum about that?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Did you tell your mum about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one comment that sums up everything here. I think impressed is an understatement.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, and Chuck Miller says, how is the Rotex holding up?
Really good. It's been really, really good. I've been testing the plane. I'm basically at the test pilot at this point. I went up to 13,000 feet in Greenland. And then just the other day, it was minus 13 degrees Celsius at about 8,500, I think. So I'm kind of testing it out, seeing how it goes. And it's been amazing. It's been really good, yeah.
Fantastic. Yep. One more question. Manfred says, how many people are working behind the scenes to keep you going?
Sure. So I've got, for the flight following kind of logistics of it, my dad's helping me out. An amazing woman called Megan Bowden helping me out. And in the US, I had John Skitone. He's been kind of, because of the time difference, it's kind of tough to get people in Europe involved. But so those are the biggest three. My mom's been helping loads with my social media, as well as a couple other people. And so I've got about, I'd say 5 people, working like a lot on this project. And without them, there's no way I could do this. So yeah.
When are you expecting to be back?
November, sometime in November. Yeah. But then I'm saying, like, as long as I'm back before Christmas, I'm happy.
What? Yeah. One more question from the comments. When this is all done, what are your career plans?
I'm hoping to go to university next year to do electrical engineering. Sorry about that. I'm actually applying right now, so that's been quite tough to try and get it's quite a lot of work to try and apply to different universities. But that's been fun, and then we'll see. After that, we'll see. Yeah.
I think any university that learned that you applied while flying around the world would be like, no, here's a place.
Hopefully, because I'd like to get in. Yeah. No, but I'm really excited.
I have to say that's been hugely impressive. We've had some fantastic guests on in the past, but you've been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very kind.
Okay.
Well, thank you, and thank you guys for. I was supposed to be on this like a few weeks ago, so I apologize about that. But I think at the time I was battling wildfires in North California.
Okay, so now you got your priorities sorted out. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, loads and loads of congratulations and things in the comments to you, Zara, and obviously just best of luck from all of us, and keep flying safely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Zara.
Thank you. That was really fantastic. What a great girl. Good luck to her on the rest of the trip.
Well, it's been a great 2021. So thanks everybody for joining us. If you joined us on the live stream, if you've read the magazine, and if you've joined the Flyer Club, if you haven't, obviously the price will be going up in 2022. There's going to be loads of new exciting things coming, the way that we'll deliver content to you. So you can join now for just £7.50 per quarter. It will go up, so get that price locked in and go to flyer.co.uk and click the club tab at the top.
And I'll be looking forward to introducing our new format for the magazine. It's a big step for us, a very important step for us, and we hopefully will go live with it early in the new year.
So thanks for all your support, and we'll look forward to welcoming you to many more live streams, and for you to be reading and consuming all the Flyer content in 2022.
And I'd just like to thank everybody involved in putting the live stream together. The team's been absolutely brilliant. It's something that's fantastic to be involved in, whether it's a team here, a guest, or you out there looking at it. So thank you very much for that. Please don't forget, it's YouTube. So click, what do you do on YouTube? You give us a like, leave a comment, hit the bell to subscribe, and don't forget, head over, as Johnny said, to flyer.co.uk and join the Flyer Club. Just £7.50 a quarter at the moment. It will be going up. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Everyone.